All right, we're down at the shop today and we've hit a milestone on the Pro XP, and we've got 1,000 miles on it. So I'm going to do a quick review of my experience over the last 1,000 miles on this machine. So stay tuned. Okay, so I just got back from Windrock. We're over 1,000 miles now. We're actually 1,032.5. Absolutely no issues with this machine. Really doesn't have a whole lot of mods to it. You can check some other videos. Got shock therapy springs, obviously some accessories, mostly electrical accessories. That all has worked really well. Haven't had no failures of any of the components that I've installed. So I'm just going to go back to front, show you some of the battle scars. This machine has performed very, very well. The front of the machine, as far as like the plastics and stuff go, they're positioned really well. I really have not gotten hung on anything or bashed anything. This has been up against, dirt banks and things like that. You can kind of see it more in the back. But reality is, you can put a little bit of SC1 or any kind of protectant or even pledge, and generally most of the scratches and everything come out. So I'm really happy with where the tire's placed at. That generally catches and keeps things off of this. The HMF bars have done really well. I've got the same brand bumper. The only thing that I've really done, you kind of notice there, you look real careful. I bashed into several rocks. If you've never been to Windrock, there's lots of rocks there. And, you get caught on some ledges. That'll probably go away when I go to a 32-inch tire. It'll push the tire out just a little bit further, and it'll actually clear this. As you can see, this really hasn't hit, but this area right here has came in contact several times. I love this bumper. It has saved. Obviously, if that bumper wasn't there, I would have had some plastic damage and things just in normal riding. It would have probably caught that lower edge there, because it's almost up underneath. So that rock would have hit that before the tire would have actually caught it. So I highly recommend that you do get some kind of front protection, especially if you do a lot of technical riding. Everything here is stock drive shafts. Those have done really well. As long as you watch the skinny pedal and take it easy over things, those seem to be very robust. So same deal with the A-arms. You can see the A-arm up top is really, really beefy. The lower one's not bad, but the stock A-arm is a high clearance design. It's got a bend to it. That worked out really well, and really, as you can see, they really haven't come in contact with anything. I really haven't noticed anything contacting those. Generally, this is really the only place that it's contact the actual ground or rock. Also the rock sliders, I'll show you that here in a second. So this winch, I love this winch. I've had this is my third RZR, and this is a 45S. Having other winches, I will say these are a lot easier to install because the contactor and everything is built into the winch. When I do it the next RZR, or if I ever have to replace this winch, I will go back with this style winch. Warren makes an excellent product. This isn't sponsored or anything, and these are considerably more expensive than the standard winch, but I can say they're well worth it. The access here is better. I noticed that my cable has lasted much longer. Normally, I would have already had to replace this. I think a lot of it has to do with this open cage design. It's a lot easier to keep clean. It's a lot easier to unspool. Things just move better. And the pulling power, I will say, it's a lot smoother. When this thing kicks on, it doesn't have a lot of grating sound or anything like that, and the pulling is just smoother. So I think it's actually you're getting more pulling power for the current that you're pulling against the battery, and I think that helps with winching. I don't know of any of these machines that you can sit and run the winch for an hour. And that's important, being able to actually get the machine free smoothly and easily without consuming a lot of power. Because if you're just sitting there idling, you're pulling amperage and current out of your battery. and it's going to get low enough to where it actually starts affecting the machine in a relatively short amount of time. I do have a street legal kit on this. That's worked really well. It's Super ATV. You can see my turn signal markers. That has actually worked out really good. I've had no problems with it. I still do have the stock Carnivore tires and rims. I do a lot of road riding. Again, this is street legal, so you know we ride this here locally quite a bit. The rear starting to get a little wear. We got 1,000 miles on these tires. I would say probably 50% of the mileage has probably been on pavement, so that should give you some kind of idea. I don't know. I may try to rotate these one time. To rotate them, you do have to take the tire off the rim and swap, because the rim sizes are different front to back. I'm just going to go to the side here real quick. So like I said, let's see if we can, really don't have any spots that really stick out. There's a couple little scratches, especially in this area here. But this plastic is done really well, and it usually polishes out, and you really can't tell that it has any wear. So real happy with that. Door, really haven't had any issues contacting the door. Like I say, I think this design, you know, when it's on its side and beveled up, this really doesn't come contacting the door unless you do something crazy, like, you know, hit it a little too hard and cause the razor to shift over. Luckily, I've not run into that. Usually it will actually hit this before it actually hits the door, which is really good. These have helped out tremendously. As you can see, that's some bash marks in the previous video. These are pretty common to, like, just, you know, completely destroy, especially if you get it. It really doesn't affect it by dirt, but if you definitely catch that on a rock, that's coming out. And you can buy replacements on Amazon. They're really cheap. But you can see here, this is really taken some abuse and done really well. It's kept whatever did that damage, it has kept that from actually coming up and getting into this plastic, which has been really well. These have held up well. They still have the same clearance. They're not bent. So I'm really happy with this design. The main reason I chose the HMF is because it actually comes and protects this area. Most of the other tree kickers, they stop somewhere about there, which leaves this big gap where you could actually get a tree caught in there, and then that tree will actually get up into this plastic. So I highly recommend, before you purchase a set of rock sliders, especially for the Pro XP, get some that have the extension that come back as close as you can to the tire. Basically, they've come back to allow you, you know, room to put bigger tires on. Back here, really, you know, shock therapy. One thing I've noticed, a lot of people have messed up on their Fox series shocks. Shock therapy on the Fox, this is actually inverted. So you'll notice the long part's up here, short part's up here. I think on the Walker Evans version of this, for the shock therapy, it's flipped the other way. But I've noticed a lot of people actually have this flipped upside down on the Fox shock. So be sure to check the directions for your machine. Make sure you get that flipped the correct direction. As far as the machine goes, really, I was a little bit concerned. This is my first trailing arm machine, and I was really concerned about that catching on things or getting, you know, chewed up. And reality is, I don't think that I've ever really drug or hit that on anything. It really doesn't get in the way. My style of driving, typically I'm keeping, like, you know, any kind of big objects or whatever, trying to crisscross or keeping it in the center versus trying to, you know, really get that into like a tire or into the trailing arm. That's worked out really well. I really do love the dynamic suspension. On riding on the road, I usually ride in firm. It prevents basically any body roll, and you can kind of drive it like a car. And then obviously when on the trail, just kind of cruising around, you can cut it into comfort mode just by the steering wheel control. I did not realize I would like that as much, but I've really enjoyed it. So my setup on the rear, I'm sticking with this. I'm really happy with it. So basically I've got the small storage area in the back, and that does pretty much contain everything that I've ever needed to use. Worked out really well. It's really easy to get in and out for cleaning or changing oil. Then I've got the Pelican box with some rock straps. to hold this in there. This is the 20, I think a 20 quart Pelican. This works out really good. This is the right size. It gives you a little bit of room to put stuff if you need to. Got an air compressor there, but if you need to put other stuff, you can. I've considered getting the tilt, and I've taken some measurements, and that still would fit in here. I just really haven't had a need for it, at least yet. And like I said before, this is street legal. Basically, I just put that in directly into the plastic since it's a full-size tag. Most of the tag holders for the Pro XP that I've seen are for the small tags. In North Carolina, it's a full-size tag, so you got to do something a little different. No, actually, absolutely no belt issues. I may do another video on this. For this machine, I did it for the 1000S. The big thing on the clutch wear and the belt wear is keeping this clean. This one is a lot easier to get off. Basically, you just pull this tube completely off, pull your clutch cover off, and what I generally do is I'll actually wash with water, and generally I try not to use a mild detergent, but sometimes that's kind of necessary. But I'll use something very benign like Dawn or something like that, and clean this out and then dry it out, and that really does make your clutch last a lot longer. It makes your belt last a lot longer. And I've done that on all my other razors, and that's still proven true here on the Pro XP. Kind of the same deal over here on this side. Plastics, you know, the vinyl, everything is still doing really well. My previous machines, probably, you know, by this point, the vinyl was kind of looking a little rough. But this one seems to be a little bit better quality. On the interior, but you know, these seats, I wasn't really sure I had PRPs in my old razor. But reality, I think these seats are very, very good. They're not a true top suspension seat. I think the reason that I like them is because these V-cuts do help keep you cooler, and they dry out really quick, because basically there's holes everywhere that water can get out. I do really like the click style seat belt, even though it's not, you know, your typical race harness. These are way easier to get on, and just way more comfortable to wear when riding. Again, I got the windfall mount. I had these on the other razor. Really, the only thing, these are the same mounts. The only thing I really did is I just didn't use the center hook. These have really worked out well. I do highly recommend that you do get a fire extinguisher. As a recent experience, had a guy that had a Pro XP, and he had a little fire, and what had happened is a bird had actually built a nest up between the turbo and the cage, you know, and it basically caught on fire. So even on the 800s, a lot of times the leaves will get up into the 800 exhaust area, and that can start a fire. So highly recommend that. Really happy with the maintenance on this machine. So generally what I do now is I basically take the bed off during maintenance, and I will take this upper half off only to get to the air cleaner. The air cleaner is on this side. You can see it from the bedside, but the actual change is on this side. Really easy to get to, and if you do it all at one time, it makes it really easy to get to the oil filter, which is way easier to get to on this machine than it was on the 1000. And the oil change goes really easy. I've been really happy with that. One thing that I didn't know, you know, at first I thought this would kind of just be kind of a toy, is the ride command. But in actuality, I've had ride command since I bought this razor. I don't know at this point whether I could live without it or not, because it basically maps everywhere that I go, how long it took, etc. So it's really improved the ride quality on your next trip, because you can see where you've been. If you want to go to somewhere particular, you can do waypoints, especially if you've got a large group of people that maybe didn't go with you last time. This makes it really convenient to be able to find your way around, see where you've been, and it just saves a lot of time. You know, you don't really get lost or misplace a waterfall or misplace an overlook, etc. That's been really great. I really do like the stereo at this point. We pretty much play music pretty much any time that we're out really getting it on the trails. That's been a really nice thing to have. Recently, before the last Windrock trip, I added a upper bag. I had one of these on my other RZR, which was the Polaris, more the Polaris style that was more forward. This thing, I think this is a Moto, or Kimimoto maybe. Yeah. So this is a much bigger bag, and I actually really like it because it opens up, the whole bag opens up. It has a passenger and a driver's side component, and they're configured a little bit differently. I do like the clear. This keeps your Windrock pass, your registration, etc. Readily accessible there. Most of the time they just kind of look up and see it and send you on your way. But this thing is huge. I mean, like, you can put anything. I know a lot of people carry firearms, etc. You know, you can definitely put a small firearm in here and not, you know, have it banging around or moving around. I did upgrade door bags. The prior door bags I had just basically failed probably the first trip, and mainly that was just the zipper component. I went with these bags, very popular brand. Not sponsored again, but I really do like their bags. They're probably the best door bag that I've used, just from layout and quality materials. The big thing is the zipper quality. So if you don't have a good zipper on your bag, it's going to fail, and you're not going to be happy, because basically you're going to have a bag that's always open. I do like the little side pockets here. That does hold a Mountain Dew. So if you are not familiar with the RZR, almost all models of the RZRs, that center thing is a coffee warmer, not a drink holder. So anything you put in there is going to get really hot. A lot of stuff you can do to kind of try to prevent that, but the reality is there's a lot of heat. All the coolant lines run up and down through there. There's gonna be a lot of heat. So I typically use that for other things, and use this to actually hold my drink, which keeps it relatively cool. And you got the little side pocket back here. I'm really impressed with the storage. The only thing that I run into is this this style windshield. Basically, you can see this handle comes really close to the dash, and you have to basically release that handle to get that lifted up. Even without the handle, as a engineering design issue, that won't open up very far. It's going to hit the roll cage, and that's a relatively big. It's bigger than this glove box. So you know, you got this center glove box which goes down, and all your electricals underneath here. And then you've got that glove box, which I think they actually engineered that. You can actually put a subwoofer underneath it, which I don't have, but that glove box is bigger. It's just a lot harder to get any big items in because of, one, the latch issue, and two, even if you don't have a windshield or don't have the latch issue, you got the roll bar that's going to come in contact. Another thing I added on the part of the road legal thing are these. I do like these. I did have a rear windshield, or a rear mirror, rear view mirror. This just it aids, and if you're on the road, this works really good on the trail, because typically you're only dealing with like a single lane. Typically people aren't passing you on the trail. This is really important for if you're on the road, people are passing you, you need to pass people, etc. This makes a huge difference. As far as control wise, I really have not got accustomed to these. I would prefer that style switch, or the old, what they call the old school four-wheel drive and light setup. I really am not digging these new switches. They kind of feel cheap. It's really hard to tell whether they're on or off, especially in the daylight. You can kind of see that's pretty dim. We're in the shop now, but I've gotten used to it, and it's basically by feel. Basically, if I'm on the road, I reach up and kind of flip them down. If you know, we pull off the pavement, I just kind of know to come over and click. This is a little, you can kind of see there, like, well, you just kind of listen. So that's the middle position. I'm pushing up a little bit further, and you can see that the high brights have actually already turned on, but it's not all the way in the high bright position. So you can get it in the low position, but the high brights are actually on. So if I just push down a little bit, the high brights cut off. So I really don't like this headlight switch. It's really, you really got to pay attention to how much pressure you put up. when you turn on the lights. Otherwise, you'll be in high bright mode and not know it. The only way you know is by that center. You can kind of see there. It's probably a better view. But it's just a little bit flaky, I think. I prefer the older style switches. I've kind of considered, well, do the old style switches fit, and can you get them? I really haven't researched it, but that's something I may do in the future. I don't know if you can see it, but I use one of the little flip brake locks for the parking brake. Don't use it for a parking brake necessarily. I mainly use it if I'm on the trail and I need to stop somewhere in a really steep area. I will use it, but I don't use it for like parking on flat ground, because it's not really good to leave your brakes charged pressure for long periods of time. Anyway, so really like the aluminum roof, the LED light bar. This is an Amazon, LED light bar. These things are awesome. They're bright, they work great. You can see the mounting system lucked up. Basically, if you do this little bend here in the bracket, this will bolt right up to this aluminum roof on the stock holes. You don't even have to drill any holes, and it's rock solid. It's not going anywhere. Okay, well, that's pretty much my 1,000-mile review. Really like the machine. Very few cons to the machine. Probably my main one is that four-wheel drive and high-low beam switch. But hope you enjoyed it. And if you have anything to post on maybe your experiences on the Pro XP, please feel free to do so below. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.